With 50 plus years of combined produce, supply chain, entrepreneurial, and business experience, Craig, Slate, and Ed Bertaud discuss the impacts of fresh produce on their lives and health. This podcast is a casual conversation between two friends just trying to get better. This is the Fresh CrEd.
Well, hey there, Ed. Good morning. And how are things?
Things are great. Good morning to you.
You look, you actually look pretty fresh for as early as we're starting.
Well, I'm feeling great.
Are you?
I've had a busy weekend this weekend. This is my 1 week anniversary of my birthday, so it's a beautiful Sunday here in South Texas. It's going to be pretty warm today. Had a little bit of a hard time getting going this morning, for sure. I did,
Really?
I did a little something last night that I hadn't been doing in a while, which was I had a few drinks. I had some great tequila that my wonderful boss, hopefully he hears this, gave me for Christmas, or for New Year's, actually. And I actually hadn't touched it until this week for some other reasons. Not the least of which was I just haven't been that interested in drinking alcohol. The last time I drank was during Viva, which was a little over a month ago. So I would say during the clean eating challenge, I just haven't had a lot of desire to drink alcohol. And perhaps it's partly due to the fact that I've felt so good and wanted to do so much more as far as activities, etc. It just doesn't seem conducive. Not to mention, what does alcohol do? I think it, definitely, we know it lowers your inhibitions. And I think from a decision-making standpoint with food, I had found early on that I just couldn't do both, right? I couldn't have a couple drinks and then not overeat or not keep from eating certain things. So I pretty much just, knocked it out of my overall repertoire. So I did have a few last night. My son Bryce volunteered to do some grilling last night. We had a great dinner, and I was helping him.
Oh, nice.
Callie and Lainey were out doing some other things, attending a friend's performance. And so, I don't know, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So I pulled that bottle out and started getting into it with a little bit of ranch water cocktail. Do you know what ranch water is? I mean, you live in Tucson now, so I mean.
Well, I thought ranch water was just another name for tequila. I know it's a drink with tequila, but I thought
it's a cocktail. Kind of typically, it's a tequila. I like using silver. So tequila, mineral water, lime. That's basically it, right? So about 4 fingers of tequila. About 4 fingers of tequila, a finger of mineral water, and some lime. So I had 3 or 4 of those last night, and this morning it was a reminder that I don't miss it. Really, I just maybe it's because I'm so much older now than when I started drinking. Obviously, as a younger person, the hangovers weren't such a big deal. I got over them pretty easily, but now not so easily. So I felt a little foggy this morning. I'm not 100%, and I don't like feeling that way. So. It'll probably be a while before I do that again.
Well, I mean, there's no way to slice it. Alcohol is poison. There's been all this talk about red wine and the resveratrol that's in there, and how it's potentially good for you or better for you. Whatever. Honestly, at the end of the day, there are no real redeeming factors about any alcohol. You're better off if you can take that path that you've taken. That's the one area that so for all of my changes in life and all the updates that I've made, that's the one that I admire you for. You've done far better than I have in the alcohol consumption. I would say maybe mine slowed up, but considering the level I was at, slowed up is probably still pretty fast for some people. But I still love red wine. I can't help it. I love wine, and I love old fashions. I at least narrowed my drinking down to just a couple of varieties, so that helps. But no, it slows you down. It does, if you, because it's just not your body's. It's not good for you. It's just not good for you. And I think the study on resveratrol that's in red wine. I think you got to drink like 200 bottles or something like that for it to have any appreciable effect. So,
And it does help a little when you drink a good quality alcohol, right, or wine. So this tequila, it's clearly some pretty good stuff. I think it's called Revel, and then not so many mixers, I guess. If you're drinking cocktails or if you're drinking alcohol straight, I think you're probably better off. Some folks have said clear alcohols, etc. From a calorie perspective, what's this called? What are sulfates? Right, sulfates is what wine has in it.
And wines. Yeah, they use sulfates in wine for aging or to keep it where it stays stable.
Then you have tannins as well that is picked up by the barrels, wood, tannins in the wood, something like that, right? I'm not a wine expert by any means. I'll lean on you for that. But my point is, it does help to drink. If you're going to drink less often, obviously, drink something of higher quality does help. But all in all, for me, this morning, it was almost like a experiment to a certain degree, right? So I woke up, I had almost forgotten what a hangover felt like. And it wasn't really a hangover. I just felt, congested and a little dizzy and sluggish. Yeah, it's just
sluggish.
I didn't sleep very well. I had some pretty wild dreams, which that usually happens anyway. I do take melatonin during the week.
Okay, we've got to put that down as a note. We've got to talk about Ed's wild dreams. Maybe that's like an entire section. Ed's wild dreams.
Can I tell you?
We put into the podcast.
I shared this with some coworkers. Melatonin here recently. I woke up and I was dreaming about eating a chocolate bar. Right, so I woke up. My regular time alarm goes off. I was dreaming about eating a chocolate bar, and I woke up with my iPhone in my mouth, and I was trying to bite a piece off of it.
Okay.
I'm serious.
I don't think
Ask Callie. I had my iPhone in my mouth, and I had gone as far as to take the cover off of it. So, dreams happen very quickly. It was all happening as I was waking up. So who knows? It could have been, nanoseconds. But I woke up, and I had my phone in my mouth. So I was trying, I don't know, maybe I was trying to turn it off at the same time, but I was dreaming that I was eating a Hershey's chocolate bar. You know how they're segmented and they're in little, squares. That's what I was seeing in my dream.
And so you were doing melatonin. You were doing melatonin. No. The night before you were hammering melatonin.
Tequila last night. More regularly melatonin because I drink a lot of coffee throughout the day, and I drink coffee late in the day, which I know I'm not supposed to do, and I'm trying to cut it back. But even at midnight, 1 o'clock, a lot of times I need melatonin to kind of get myself to sleep. I've always been a night owl as it is. I've always been up late my whole life. But here recently I've been using melatonin. Well, anyway, that particular night I might have taken it too late. And so when I woke up at 5:45, I was trying to eat my phone. So,
wow. Maybe I'll get me some of that melatonin. That sounds kind of interesting.
Well, I don't know if I digressed or not, but we were talking about the weekend's activities. We're talking about alcohol.
Yeah. I don't know about the health benefits of eating your phone, and or now I'm beginning to question the health benefits of maybe taking melatonin. But I don't know. Maybe that's just maybe you have some kind of allergic reaction to melatonin. Hey. I don't know. So
it's always an adventure.
So cooking out. So how is Bryce on the grill?
He's pretty good, actually. The fajitas didn't concern me. There were some sausage on there that always concerns me because, who knows? It's mystery meat to, a certain degree, I guess. So I wanted to make sure that was cooked very well. But, he's pretty good. He likes to cook. So, we ate out. When we ate outside, it was a beautiful night. You know how windy it gets down here. It's been miserable recently. And last night was just perfect. Dead calm, great temperature. Had a little fire in the fire pit and ate outside. So it was really good. But it seemed like a good idea to have a couple, drinky poos. And again, it'll probably be a while before I do that again.
Yeah. Like I say, I wish I could say it had been a while for me, but I'm sure I had a couple of glasses. I know I had at least one old fashioned yesterday, and a couple of glasses.
Well, the
of
calories,
red wine,
right? I
so.
can't afford the calories. I think we talked about on our last pod that I'm not real good at counting calories or measuring food, and so it's kind of one or the other, right? I do like to have a dessert once in a while, and that might mean, an apple and some peanut butter or just something that I know is high in caloric value. So alcohol, I couldn't do both. I couldn't have lost the weight I did for sure continuing to consume alcohol. And I'm not, trying to preach or, soapbox anybody, because I think you can do it. But, I fail in other areas for sure. If you call that a failure or a win.
It's got to be a lifestyle that you can live. That challenges me. People talk about diets and, hey, I'm on this diet, I'm on that. And for me, it's been a mind shift, right? And that mind shift has been, look, I'm going to get on a healthier plan, and then I'm going to learn as much as I can about what is healthy, what is not, and whatever, and try and hack my way through things that fit with my lifestyle that I can do. If I can't be, at least today, maybe someday, I can't be a vegetarian. I've grown up eating so much meat, and that's been such a part of my life. But I have learned to eat different types of meat. Right? There was, you go back 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't touch salmon. Try to have salmon at least once a week now. I used to be a ribeye guy. Fatty, big ribeyes. That was the majority of the plate was my steak, and there might be potentially a potato or something as a side. But now it's it's a fillet. It's a much more it's less fat. It's grass fed. I'm particular about grass fed beef, super lean, and it's smaller. So it's a 6 ounce, and then I make sure that it's complemented by some sort several vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, a salad. So and I guess that's what I'm trying to. So for me, it's like red wine and the old fashions, right? I've tried to limit my variety. I've taken beer pretty much out of my lifestyle. Part of that's been driven by some food allergy testing I had done, but just as a general rule, there's a lot of calories. There's not really anything. It's just so heavy. But anyway, narrow my alcohol down, try to reduce it down, be conscious of it, be aware of what you're doing, right? And just be honest with yourself. Hey, I feel like crap when I wake up after this. I'm choosing to do that to myself, so it definitely, I'll tend to stop earlier, or I'll tend to have less, because I'm like, you know what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? And so there's that whole conscience, but I guess this diatribe that I'm on here is really about people need to find a lifestyle that they can live with, not a diet per se, but it needs to be a lifestyle that's informed from a health standpoint, right? It can't be a lifestyle like, well, my lifestyle is going to be donuts and, chocolate milk, and that's what I can live with. I think you got to be you've got to kind of rein things in a little bit and be logical about what you're doing. So
you have to definitely be deliberate about it. So I think if anything I've learned these last couple years is I wasn't thinking about, my health, my habits, all of those things. I felt like, now looking back, like I was just floating through space, just kind of, because even though I have developed a lot of good habits, they're still not super ingrained, right? I'm still thinking about it 10, 15 times a day, maybe 20 times a day, along with weighing myself every day. That was something I never did, right? I mean, how could you modify your behavior if you don't know how much you weigh? If that's really what you're looking for, if that's what the goal is, right? If you don't weigh yourself every day. We talked about me gaining 4 or 5 pounds in 5 days or 4 days we were at Viva, and then took me 11, 12 days to take it off when I got back. And those were 4 or 5 days, and that I felt like I was eating pretty well. I wasn't fasting, but I was drinking a little bit. So yeah, the weighing yourself every day definitely helps, but you have to be deliberate about it, or else it's just not going to work. Like, you have to be thinking about it all the time. And I still think about it all the time. I mean, it's not, it's not detrimental. It's not, even close to being an obsession, if you will, but you training yourself to think about it, what you're eating. I mean, I used to wake up in the morning and literally stuff a, pastry in my mouth because I thought that's what I needed to kind of get going in the morning. Didn't even let myself wake up before I was doing that. So, definitely not on my, diet program now or what I eat, but just stringing up a chain of good decisions, right? You're talking about like diets and all this stuff, right?
Right.
So stringing up a chain of good decisions, and then maybe one might fall off of that chain, but you start all over again.
So it's a mind shift, and so you've got to first get your head to say, this is where I want to go. You talked about getting on a scale and weight loss. Mine didn't even, it was weight loss. I said on the last pod, I mean, I didn't realize I was overweight until I lost the weight. And then people thought I was sick, which was great, right? So you've heard people, fat shaming people. Well, I got skinny shamed.
It was
like, hey,
shocking.
Greg, you sick? You're going to be all right. You're going to blow away, guy.
It was shocking.
Like, I know. But it's like it. But it wasn't, but the funny thing is, Ed, is people weren't super positive about the fact that I had lost weight. It was like, hey, you looked a lot better when you were pudgy. Just to kind of let you know, and, you look. But the deal is with that, and I think it's important in my mind, and I can remember when like you said, it was shocking to people, and people would just tend to be, I mean, I'm a smart ass, and so I have to expect that people are going to be a smart ass back to me. So I wasn't terribly put off by it, but at the end of the day, I already had in my mind, I don't care so much how I look, right? My objective was not, hey, Craig, it's do this to look better, right? It was not about the outside in my mind that I was looking for. So I wasn't worried about the weight loss. I wasn't, terribly concerned. I mean, I didn't like looking older, or I didn't like the fact that maybe it didn't look great on me, or people's reaction was negative. But at the same time, I knew I felt better. I knew I had more energy. And those were the things that I was after. And that was where my head was at. And I think that's something that's super important for people, as you, like I say, if you decide that, look, I want to try and do something for my health, I really think it's important for you to think about what you do internally. I mean, you talked about on the last call how it psychologically eating better has changed you, right? And how you feel better, and you've got all this energy. You're not laying on the floor in the afternoon when you come home from work. To me, that is, whether you lose weight or, how much you look, if you're able to put that as your goal and achieve that and get yourself to a place where you're enjoying life better, to me, that's worth thousands of pounds of gold. If you can just feel better and feel better internally. And then, like I said, get used to the fact of whatever I look like on the exterior is what it is, but I know I'm in good shape inside, right?
So I sent you something a while back from Andy Stanley, and it was a particular piece he had on changing your narrative, right? And this was particularly informative for me because I'd never really thought about it that way, but when you start to actually identify what your narrative is or what you tell yourself why you can't do things or why you can do things, almost
right.
looking at it from a outside in standpoint, it's very helpful. It has been very helpful for me, right? I think changing your narrative, we can talk about, well, we can't because I don't know much about psychology, but when you talk about the psychology of, or getting over psychological hurdles, for me is what I was calling them, like I can't do this, I have to eat by then. And, what we tell ourselves, what we can and can't do is part of our, internal narrative. So that's all super interesting. I'd encourage folks to read up about it more, but at the end of the day, it has to do with everything we do in life is, what do we tell ourselves? What excuses do we give ourselves why we can and can't do things? And once you start identifying those messages to yourself as the external narrative or your external narrative or internal narrative, it really helps kind of isolate those problem thoughts and change them and try to drive, change and create change. So, yeah, I think that those are super huge hurdles to get over.
And one of the things, one of the changes, the things that I started, like I say, since I came out here to Tucson, and it's been an evolution, but it's guided meditation. Like I say, I originally started, I didn't have a, I'd heard all this about how great meditation is for you, whatever, and I kind of did my own program, which is the way I usually start things. I usually try and get a thumbnail's worth of information and then to put Craig's program together. Then eventually I actually figure out that I read up on some smarter people and look into it further, and I get to a better place. But, guided meditation is one of those things where, man, you asked me 4 or 5 years ago, I'd have told you it was like, I don't know, man, that meditation thing. Again, I would have blown it off as being just some kind of hippie stuff, right? And the reality of it is, it's probably one of the best things. It's in the top 2 or 3 best things that I've implemented in my life, and I try and do it every morning, first thing before the day gets started. But it's not really about that 10 minutes. It's a practice, and basically when you start to understand what it's all about, it's about practicing awareness, and that's your moment to practice being aware of the moment and what's going on. And so as you practice that, you become so much better throughout the day being aware of what's going on and catching yourself when you're not. When you find yourself in a moment where you should be present, and then you recognize, oh, I'm not here. I am thinking about, what I got to do at work next week or whatever, and I'm missing this moment, right? And you talk about, your health and your food, and same kind of deal. It's about being present and knowing in the moment when you're making that choice to eat X, Y, Z, whatever it is. It's being aware that, look, you can make this choice, but does this fit, with your long-term plan? Does this fit with what you want to do? And you may choose to eat or do whatever that is, but at least you're aware you're making that choice. You talk about, for me, before I kind of got into this, I lived so much outside of the moment that I was in. I mean, this happened a couple of years back here in Arizona. Tanya and Granger and I on a hike. Now, Granger's in his 20s, so him going hiking with his mother and father is pretty rare. So it's a pretty cool occasion for the parents and for me, right? Because, the older they get, the further you get apart and less time you spend. I became so amped up about the time of the hike and how long it was taking that I missed the time with Tanya and Granger, because I was watching the clock. All of a sudden it became this, I got to get done with this. I got to get finished. Blah, blah. I had nothing to do. There was nothing pressing me. But even it doesn't matter, right? I'm on this hike with my wife and my son, and I'm not even there. I'm worried about finishing it at a certain time. And then we got lost, and all of a sudden the time got screwed up. I got frustrated. And it's like, come on, you big dummy. But that's the kind of thing. It's like, so meditation, practicing that really helps you. And again, I still do it. Believe me, Tanya will tell you that I still am not present sometimes when I should be, and I'm working at that. But that's what the practice is about, and I think it helps you out through work, through personal relationships, and then through, like I say, eating habits.
There's
and things like
a
that,
running
sure.
joke or expression in our household when I get to start spoiling things, and it goes, "Hurry up and have fun," is what Callie will tell me, or "Hurry up and relax."
Yeah, my kids can exactly hurry up and relax. Used to be great when we were going to church, right? We were that classic church family, man, and it was like we certainly needed to be at church by the time we got there, because it had been a less than a religious. It was a religious moment, wasn't the kind God was looking for sure.
Were you tearing into the parking lot?
Anyway, yeah. I mean, I'm the oh, and we're gonna be in late, and we're always. And it's like, what did it matter? When you stop and you think about, who cares, right? I mean, we got there, we were there, and I don't know, but that's just me. I'm wired that way. I still struggle with that. It's just like, time is. I guess I'm always. My deal is I've got this internal clock that seems to be ticking. I feel like I'm always have been pressed by life is like a basketball shot clock, and I'm trying to get in as much as I possibly can before my time's up. And so that has informed me, and it's pressed me, and it's created a tremendous amount of stress in most people that's come into my life, and still does to this day. So anybody that's listening to this, there's probably some people like, this guy's not changed one iota, or maybe they just didn't know how bad I was before. So anyway, it's an area of opportunity for me.
Evolved from where you were when I first met you, for sure. Yeah, I will say that all of these concepts and thoughts, I'll go back to what I said, I think on the last pod we had, was, when you're in survival mode and you're just getting by because you feel so poorly and you don't have the energy to do things, and it's very difficult to learn or even want to learn about any of this stuff and try to apply it. And when you talk about practicing, I've been purposely practicing patience. The minute that I feel like I'm getting impatient, I feel like I want to scream inside, right? When I do it, if I'm standing in line somewhere waiting, I'll even change my behavior completely opposite of the way I'm feeling, just to try to turn that, desire to scream and explode into something else, or calm it down, right? And not let it ruin my whole day, kind of like, right. Some technical difficulties that my co-host had this morning, kind of like my wife thinking that it was a good idea to put concentrated dish soap in the rinse compartment of the dishwasher yesterday morning, which I spent most of my 3-4 hours, just sucking that out with a shop vac. So for a minute there for
wait. Hang on, back up, time out. I got to wait a second. All right. So Callie did what?
Apparently the bottle of rinsing agent, right, looks just like the bottle of concentrated dish soap. So it went in that compartment, and for a minute there, our consensus was, because we were only like, 1 cup of coffee in for the day, was, we'll just run it, right? So luckily, against our better judgment, we did not just run it. She actually came up with the idea. She said, let me get the shop vac. We have a little small shop vac for indoor use. And we got like a watering can, a flower bed watering can, and filled it up and sucked it out and filled it maybe 50 times, 60. Literally for about 3 hours, just dumping the water out. And if you saw the amount of suds that were created in that thing, every time we'd fill up the shop vac, I can't even imagine. I told her this would have been like an episode of I Love Lucy if we would have ran that thing, and you would have, and that, the suds that were created, it would have been a nightmare.
So it happened in college. So my roommate decided, since we'd ran out of dishwashing suds, so he didn't put it in he was like, what, hey, it's soap, dishes, psh. He sprays it off, and I come home from class, and there's like soap everywhere. I was like, but I guess the thing ran over. I put some, anyway. So yes, I've seen it happen. It's a mess. It's unbelievable. And I just like, come on. So good. Okay. So I kind of, when I was understanding when you were saying that, I was thinking you turned on the machine thinking it was going to work fine.
No, we caught it, but the only thing you could do is literally extract it. So we're trying to flush it while extracting the water. And so that was where the continuous switching out of the water out of the shop vac, because it's a small handheld shop vac. It was sudsing up, and then it was spitting suds out the back of the exhaust, and that's when we knew it was full of suds. Oh man, it was a mess. But the most important point, which is I was practicing patience, right? We were talking about practicing modifying our behaviors. I practiced patience yesterday. I gave her a hard time, but it was more in a loving and joking manner than normal, just like blow up.
Well, yeah, because I know you pretty well as well. I would have bet money against you being calm and patient in a loving way, in any kind of way. Yep. So that's good. That's excellent.
Win for me. Chalk one up.
Yeah, for sure. So busy weekend for you. So 3 hours of soaking up suds. Did you do any gardening, anything like that?
Golf?
It rained. Did you play golf this weekend?
We got a pretty good storm come in Friday night. So no, there was no golf. If we get done early today, with this, I might go hit some balls this afternoon. But it was pretty wet. We got a pretty big storm came in Friday night. I did get some yard work done, got a lot of steps in, went on a bike ride, did about 20,000 steps yesterday, I guess, around the yard and doing chores, and then went on about a 10-mile bike ride before dinner.
Now, are you a solo bike rider? You riding
I've
with?
been solo. So here recently, Callie was actually the one that was interested in getting a new bike, right? So I have a mountain bike that I would ride when we lived out where we used to live. And then during moving and we were in a rental house and all this stuff, it was in storage. And so here recently, there's been a huge shortage on bikes, just like a lot of exercise equipment has been short, right? Due to COVID, pandemic, people being home, wanting to go out. So we've been looking for a bike for her, and it was she's pretty tall, so she requires a large frame women's bike or a men's medium. So we hadn't been able to find one, and I'd been all over online looking, etc. So recently we took a bike that was Bryce's old bike. When I say old, it's a really nice bike, specialized brand, pretty good, mountain bike. She didn't want it. She wanted, her own thing. And I said, look, just give me a shot. Let me fix it up. When I say by fixing it up, I mean, let me take it to the bike shop and have them, tune it up, clean it, upgrade it, all that stuff. So they put some, hybrid tires on it and some handlebar extensions and made it all kind of fancy for, over the road. More like these hybrid bikes you see now. It's like a hybrid of a mountain bike and a road bike. So at the same time, I took my bike and had it kind of refurbed. And so now I'm back into my bike. Bicycles have been a big part of my life. When I was growing up, I raced BMX. So that was a big thing. We lived out in the country. Me and my neighbor would have, dirt tracks. And BMX was a big, big part of my life until I broke 200 pounds my freshman year and started just snapping frames left and right. My dad said, hey, you either need to lose some weight or get another hobby, because I would literally snap the dang, head tube off. So I
no doubt.
I enjoy riding, and I'm pretty proficient even at my age. So here recently it's been solo, but in the future, hopefully with other people. It is a little freaky to be kind of on the side of, I have a lot of these kind of back roads out by where I live where there's no shoulder, so I'm just literally just kind of up against the dirt. But, to get the workout, there's some trails here, and we've talked about going out to do and ride on, but for exercise sake, just pretty much road riding.
So there's a place in Austin. In fact, they've got it several places, in mountain areas or whatever. But Austin's got a place that you can go, and it's like a ski lift that'll take you up, and then you ride down. I don't exactly. I've not looked at to where it's at, but a lot of these, like you go to Purgatory, which is a ski resort, or any of these. Most all of them have. Which I've yet to go do, but I really would love to go try.
They do it in Cloudcroft,
and so maybe me and you need a bike trip sometime.
Cloudcroft, they have something like that at the ski resort in Cloudcroft. They utilize a lot of these skiing resorts. They utilize that equipment, as you mentioned, for springtime and summer, use, or summer use, I should say. So, Callie's family, or part of her family, is from that area. And so I can't believe I'm saying this. We've been married almost 20 years, and I've never been. She talks about it all the time. We keep meaning to do it. It's just there's no real good way to get there other than drive, and we just need to take the time out to do it. But she was showing me,
Is that New Mexico, southern New Mexico?
If you imagine, do you know where Carlsbad is? Okay, so it's just up from Carlsbad, like, I guess west, right? If you're coming from Texas way, up that way. So there's a resort up there and stuff. And so I was looking it up, and I YouTubed something because she was telling me about how there's a golf course there. It's pretty cool. And I looked it up, and I saw these YouTube videos of these guys just doing some extreme mountain biking, and they were using that lift mechanism to go up the mountain and down. So,
well, I don't know if I'm ready for extreme mountain biking.
No, these guys do some insane stuff. It literally looks like a video game. What they're doing, is next level. But I would assume that there's, different categories, right? Like bunny slope for you. Yeah, levels.
Yeah, they're bound to be. I don't know. I might surprise you. I didn't do any bike snapping as a young boy, but I rode my share of bikes. You know, so where I grew up, we were kind of left on our own to do kind of whatever we wanted to, and so Evel Knievel was big in my day, and so jumping things was what it was all about. So. One, didn't grow up with just a huge amount of money. I would say we thought we were middle class, but if we'd actually known, we were not middle class. We were like on the lower, we were maybe middle to low income class is where I grew up. So we basically traded in bike parts. I mean, we built our own stuff, and nobody had anything new. But our deal was jumping things, and literally we'd start fires in tires and things like that,
Wow.
and jump over the fire. Then one time, because so Evel Knievel would jump cars and different stuff. So we recruited a couple of young kids in the neighborhood to be live bodies that we could jump. The good news is we only put the oh man, if we'd only had video back in my day. Oh, in my day, there's so many opportunities, but. So we had these metal trash cans. So like I said, we'd have live kids on the very front of the jump. So we were pretty good about clearing those. We really didn't have a problem with that. But to make things like adding cars and stuff, you just kept adding trash cans to the other side of the jump until, well, you couldn't clear that last trash can. And that was a pretty ugly situation. But, I could tell 1,000 different stories about our life and biking. But as we put things together, we weren't always maybe that dedicated to making sure it was done properly or whatever. And so I had gotten a new tire, a new rim or something on the front end, and switched it out. Got off and was running. Man, I was going, and we used to, the curbs in the street. I lived, on a regular street, and man, I popped up over that curb, and off went my front tire, and it was nothing but me and my forks coming down. Oh yeah, and I was like, whoop. So. Anyway, many stories. Like I say, I wasn't a BMX racer, so I don't have that level of skill. But I spent many a time riding, handmade bikes, if you will.
I'm assuming you've upgraded by now, but
I have. I did. I've got a much better bike. Actually, when I moved here, and I think I told you on the last podcast we were talking about, I was riding back and forth to the YMCA on my bike, and one of the biggest thefts in Tucson and in Arizona is bike theft. And I mean, honestly, this was, I'm fortunate that all they took was my bikes, but I went off on a trip when I was there, and I had 2 bicycles in the garage. And one of them was a really nice bike that I'd gotten in an auction, but it was well out of date. Long and short, if those got stolen, and I had to buy some brand new bikes when I got here, and they were much upgraded over what I had before, and super happy with it. And I've been a couple of times in some of the mountain biking out here. They've got several trails here that you can go to, but I'm like you, it's a solo project. Even Granger's not a big it's not something he's been a big fan of. So
yeah, I mean, I think I think anybody can catch the bug, but I mean, when you grow up on a bike like we did, I grew up out in the country. I mean, we would ride over the hill to the lake and, just literally, bust your butt getting there and then jump in the water and then ride back down the hill, dry off and do it all over again. I mean, we spent, a lot of time doing that kind of stuff. So, and even then I can put it down for a couple of years, which it seems kind of ridiculous, right? It's such a big part of your life. Like golf would be to anybody that played as a young person or any other sport. But then I set it down for a long time, and now I'm kind of starting to fall back in love with it. The only thing I was having a hard time is figuring out tracking, like my Fitbit. I used to make fun of people that wore Fitbits or any kind of device like that. Just like I used to make fun of people that drank craft beer, and then I got super hooked on it for a couple years and had to give it up, obviously, for the cleaning challenge. We talked about that earlier. Beer's great, and those craft beers are scary good, but the amount of calories and just the way they made me feel, not so good. But back to the Fitbit, I had a reawakening as far as like what I think about Fitbits or any of these devices. I mean, it's a dashboard for your body. I mean, it's another tool, right, in the toolbox of, making good decisions and stringing good decisions together. This thing's been through heck. I've had it for 2 years now, and so shout out to Fitbit. They make a good product, and it's one of the basic models. I've had a bunch of different straps for it because you can switch them out, but it's accountability, it's feedback, it's a little bit of everything. I'm still trying to figure out. So when it records my bike ride, like I'll start, my exercise, and it records it, but I can't figure out how to get the mileage out of it. All it'll tell me is my heart rate, duration, calorie burn, all that kind of stuff, but not like my, geographic distance. So I might have to upgrade or figure something else out.
They've got the one that they came out with. In fact, all right, so I'm going to. So I wound up going. So I had a Fitbit for years. Love my Fitbit, right? And exactly what you're talking about. It's great dashboard, great information. And so they came out with a brand new version. Fitbit did this last summer, I guess it was. Same time Apple came out with theirs, right? I wound up choosing, obviously, the Apple. Everybody told me that's the way you got to go. That's what you need to do. I'll be honest with you. For what I want it for, the Fitbit is far better. And the upgraded version, I will probably eventually wind up giving this Apple to Granger or something like that. But it's got a GPS on there. The problem I have, probably that there was two things that I'm not getting from any of these trackers is body temperature, and on the Fitbit new version, I couldn't use Spotify on there. I can use Spotify on this watch, but neither one has. Wait a second. Actually, the new Fitbit may have the body temperature. It may have been just the Spotify that kicked me out. Point being is, look at the new upgraded Fitbit. It's got GPS tracking. Like I say, the only thing it doesn't have is the music that you can take with you, because I used to run with my phone. Now, because of the watch, I don't have to run with my phone, and that was a big plus for me. I usually run with headphones, and so I wanted to eliminate having to carry my phone. But I can't say enough for tracking about the Fitbits. The other thing is look into what's called, and I haven't got one. I'm not a ring guy, and that's why I don't get it, but it's an oral ring. They do body temperature, sleep, and everything, and it's a ring that you wear, and it's supposed to be super good. I've got a friend of mine that has one.
Would that ring record everything else that a Fitbit does? Because I tell you what, here's my challenge. I still like wearing a traditional watch.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
I like wearing a traditional watch from time to time. And so I'll put because the Fitbit, the one that I use is still relatively small, I'll put it on my other hand and I'll literally just wear a regular watch. So it's both. I'll have both on, right? But if I had a full on, Apple Watch like yours or another one of the Fitbit models, then I think I can get away with it right now, but I think it would be ridiculous if I had two full like watch faces. So I'm willing to go down. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I went to dinner the other night. I actually took off my Apple Watch and put on my nice watch because you can't wear them both together. And so, yeah, there's great things about the Apple Watch. I don't want to disparage anything, but it's really not a good fit for me because, like you, I'm mostly interested in the health information. I'm not reading emails on this thing. Heck, I can't see my phone for crying out loud. I sure as heck can't see nothing on here. So a lot of the things that somebody gets an Apple Watch for really doesn't help me. And I don't get the health metrics exactly like I had hoped for. I mean, there's a couple of apps that I downloaded. I'm getting some good information, but echo your shout out to Fitbit. It's an excellent tracker, and I really think their new version, and their new version, I think it's $225, $250, and it's got all the bells and whistles except Fitbit gets Spotify on your dadgum watch.
So I just need to find the cheapest thing, the most simple with GPS, and then I hadn't even thought about it honestly. If it doesn't have GPS, how the heck is it going to track where I went, or how long or how far, right?
Well, and the other option you've got is, so on my bike, I bought a contraption Now, it doesn't. I've tried. You can't really use it if you're mountain biking, but if you're just road travel or whatever, I mean, you can put your phone on there, right, and you can set it up to track you.
So I've been using an app for intermediate fasting. I don't know long term whether or not I'll continue to use it. For now, I've been doing it for now since 2 months. It's called Zero. And you could argue that, you could set a timer on your phone, right? And that should be enough, but this app's working for me. And so I'll set it for a 16-hour minimum fast. It also saves my fasts and the duration of the fasts. So, but typically 16 hours is my minimum, but I like to go 18, 19. Heck, the other night I accidentally went 21 hours and really contemplated taking it to the next level. I'm not quite there yet. Another shout out to our buddy TJ Flowers. He's the one that got me convinced that I could even do intermediate fasting, because he does 24 and 48. He was doing the 20 something hour every night.
Right.
So he really kind of pumped me up to get started, in the first place. Because as I mentioned, I hadn't really applied intermediate fasting when I was on the clean eating challenge. But the other night I went so long, I was at a crossroads, right? And I felt great. Just like I explain often, when I get into that 19th and 20th hour, the hunger is completely gone. I feel great, have a ton of energy. The biggest problem is that it's usually late at night. So I either needed to eat or I needed to take it to the next day. And I wasn't brave enough to take it to the next day and see if I could do it, right? And that would have been a good opportunity. What's the secret?
So what do you
I feel like
about? I mean,
what do
you think?
It's my own weakness. It's my narrative, right? I'm telling myself you can't go to bed on an empty stomach. You might could only eat once a day, but you can't go to bed on an empty stomach. It's my narrative.
Let me take. What about the Ed Bertaud of 10,000 years ago, when he didn't have the local grocery store to go to? Do you think he ever maybe went to bed hungry? Maybe he went 2 or 3 days before he got his next whatever deer.
I look at it like
hog
this:
or whatever.
You can drive a car with your feet, but I don't recommend it. So I also wasn't recommending to myself going to bed with, an empty stomach, and so. I don't know. My apprehension is just I would try and then, be laying in bed and then have to get up and go eat something, right? Because I couldn't go to sleep. So I just, I'll break through. I'll break through eventually and get past that. But I'm calling it, how do you get through that second night, right? So you eat dinner, fast till the next day. So that's the first night. And then to that second night, that's where I'm at. So give me some credit. I went from not fasting at all to now fasting every day for, 2 months. I might have had a couple days off where I didn't. And so my next hurdle is getting that to that next day. How do I get to the second day of fasting?
Yeah, no, and I'm not trying to take away from where you've gotten to. I'm just trying to understand, if you stop and if you break it down yourself, it's like, what is it you're worried about? What is it it's like you said, it's that narrative you're telling yourself. You can't go to bed on an empty stomach. We're taught that, right? God love my mother. That was food and making sure you ate. That was, she was insistent that we always were eating and had food to eat. That was her form of love quite often. And, and you might probably were raised similar kind of a fashion. And yeah, it's breaking away from that. So you think back this body that we're in, right? This, it's not like it's changed from who it was before. Now, the environment we live in, the housing and food access and things like that's all changed. But how we are at a cellular level is no different than, what things were thousands of years ago. It's the same mechanism, same operation that had to exist then.
Even the 3 meals a day paradigm that, we've been telling ourselves forever, or was just what we're taught, right? The 3 meals a day. I don't say we, I'm trying to learn about it, but I think society is now turning all of that on its ear, right? So does every meal have to be a quote unquote square meal, or does it have to be, I mean, we want it to include, fruits and vegetables, but the reality is, I think I said it the other day to you that, I had an apple for dinner the other night and I was fine. Like I wasn't ready to go to that next level, but I had an apple. Like I didn't have to have, a 4-course, 5-course dinner. I just think we get way too involved. Like it's nice to have a nice meal, but everyone doesn't have to be Instagram worthy. It can be, I've early on in my cleaning challenge, I was literally foraging at home. This was, even last year when the pandemic first kind of started, we were foraging and I was eating random stuff, all good stuff, but foraging at home, a boiled egg, some nuts, a piece of fruit or a veggie, right? It doesn't have to be a traditional, meal to fuel, food. It's just fuel is what I've been telling myself. It's just fuel. It's just a meal. There'll be another one in a few hours if you are a 3-meal-a-day person. So just kind of challenging all of those things that we've been taught over time, which we thought, made sense. And it's an indoctrination, really, right?
I'm not even sure. And again, I'm not exact on this historical fact or fiction, but I don't even know breakfast existed until Kellogg's came along and marketed breakfast. So 200 years ago, I'm not actually sure that breakfast was a meal. I do think that may be an American creation, and I would argue that most of our food philosophy today is driven by marketing. It has been the companies, whether it's
Craig, I'm ashamed to admit that until I started fasting, I never put 2 and 2 together to realize that breakfast is made up of break fast. The word breakfast. Never even thought about it. Never even thought about it. That's how far off in, La La Land my thoughts of, fasting was.
Well, I guess to be honest with you, I've never put that together. So we're embarrassed together because I've never thought about that. But you're right.
So whether 200 years ago people do it in the morning or at lunchtime or in the afternoon, they were breaking their fast, right?
Yeah, breaking their fast. They absolutely were. And again, and this is a subject that everybody needs to look into, right? This is from a the book that we talked about on the last pod. Across the spectrum, all the studies that are out there, caloric restriction, as well as fasting is probably the singular best thing that they've at least been able to see through some scientific studies is one of the singular best things that you can do to truthfully improve your health, improve your longevity, all those things, because we frankly eat too much. You go back 4 or 5 years ago, and man, it was about eat 7 times a day. It's like, don't ever get hungry, right? Just eat snacks. They didn't say, lousy food, but they said eat some kind of food. Well, realistically, your body needs to be taxed. Your body needs to, there's senescent cells, which are bad cells, dead cells, or whatever. When the longer you go in a fast, the more your body's kind of like a ship that's potentially in trouble, and it starts throwing overboard all the things it doesn't need, right? And so, when you get into that second or that third day of the fast, your body's like, okay, apparently we're not going to have food for a while, and so we've got to get as efficient as possible internally. And so it begins to get rid of the things that are not necessary. It burns up the stuff that needs to get out, because at that point in time, it literally doesn't know. Literally going back in time, just like a cave, who knows? Maybe there's a drought. Maybe there's nothing running around out there. And so your body goes into a mode where it's like, okay, we don't know when we're going to eat again, so we've got to get ready and distill this thing down. And so it's proven that it has so many health effects for a lot of different things, and something like I say, I try and do, for me, and we've talked about this, I try and fast, once a month, a 40-hour fast, which is relatively short. I get into ketosis. I measure my ketones, and I get into ketosis after about 24 hours. And so about half the time I'm in ketosis. And then every 6 months in June, I try and do it's a Sunday night or Sunday to Thursday fast. I don't know how many hours that is, but that's my big long one. But and then of course, like you, I try. I don't eat but twice a day, and I try and keep my eating between 1 and 8 or so is my feeding window. Tanya loves feeding window. She thinks that's a great term. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on the fasting journey, and I love it. I think you talk a lot about how much better you feel, and I think you're a great testimonial for just the immediate benefits it comes. But there's a lot of long-term benefits you get out of fasting.
There's for sure a lot of learning that has to go hand in hand, right? I mean, it can, I guess, be dangerous for certain people. I've had a couple of experiences that woke me up. One of them was at 23 hours one weekend. I had been outside doing a lot of yard work, drinking coffee. Like I've been, falling back in love with coffee because, the whole gastritis thing that I suffered from before didn't allow me to drink a lot of coffee, maybe 1 cup a day. So now I'm drinking, 5, 6, 7 cups a day. So that day I didn't hydrate properly, and I hit a wall at about, 5 o'clock, I guess it was. And Callie was home. I came in. She right away said, "You don't look good." I don't think it was the fasting. It was the fact that I wasn't hydrating and I was drinking a bunch of coffee and obviously losing a lot of fluid. And so that was a learning moment where, hey, if I'm going to do this again, hydrate, right? Because I still don't know what I would feel like at 24 hours plus because I've only gone 23 at this point on purpose, right?
It's something like Tanya, she can't do because she's got, sugars, her blood sugar gets really low and she gets dizzy or whatever. So she has to, for her blood sugars or whatever, she goes several hours. She tries to make breakfast later and later, kind of like you did. But for her, and there's probably lots of people, right? So, as always on any of these podcasts, anybody listen to this, I'm a squash salesman, veg trapper, and that's what I do. So that's the level of my expertise. So any of this stuff, make sure you talk to somebody that actually knows what they're doing or do your own research. I'm speaking only from personal experience. But, there's probably, there's a lot of people that it could have some negative health effects if you don't handle it correctly or you don't do the research or talk to your physicians or whatever. So, just put that out. But so lots of things going on, around the country outside of health. You and I know we want this to be about health, but there's some other things that shaking and baking out there. And one that I have been, anybody listening to this, they're like, okay, Craig, you've got like 400 passions. And apparently I do. Yeah. It's like, I got a new passion every day, but literally I'm into all this stuff, but
hey, are passions like shiny objects for you?
They are like shiny. The whole world is like a shiny object to me, man. I am that hey squirrel, whatever that cartoon was that dude, squirrel. That's my whole life, man. I have ADHD at every freaking level. But yes, crypto, man, crypto. What are you into the crypto craze yet, Ed? Have you gotten on this passion wagon train?
Should I be ashamed to say that I've just started teaching myself more about it, and I am about to get on the train. Let's put it that way. So Bryce has been super pumped up about it. And, he's a pretty mellow individual. So when I see him pumped up about something, I take notice. So, yeah, we were actually online yesterday reading a bunch of articles about, different coins and trying to figure out, a mix of short-term and long-term investment opportunities, let's say. So, but my knowledge of cryptocurrency other than I'm familiar with the name and a few articles I've read and some performance that I've seen so far is pretty limited. So sounds like you know a lot more. I'm interested. I'm paying attention. I can't believe, kind of going back to what you were saying, the last time we spoke, which was trying to stay, up to speed, and even receiving information, how you receive information changes, right? So I heard about Bitcoin a long time ago. I just blew it off. I think now, if I would have heard about it like I have here recently, I would have taken more notice and said, okay, let me look at this. Is this for me, or is this something that I need to pay attention to? Or is this something I can discard? And I think at the time I didn't have the capacity to even process an opportunity like that, or an interest or potential, right? So sounds like you know a lot about cryptocurrency. What's the 101?
I've done a lot of research, and this is like the health stuff. There's a lot of people that actually, only knowledge I have is what I've been able to read and from going from the internet or from CNBC or whatever. So yeah, I mean it's super interesting. Certainly very important in the time that we're in today. What it's actually going to be 10 years from now. That's still a lot of unknowns. I mean, young people right now think it's for sure a deal, right? Get on the train, it's going to go. And they may or may not be proven right. They'll be proven right at some level. But I started looking at, I guess that goes back to, gosh, I first got into, blockchain study back in 2017, 2018. I started looking at the blockchain and trying to understand, what is this blockchain? What is it all about? And how does it even work? And I'm not even going to try and get into, I'll put it this way, I'll give it Craig Slate's simple version of what the blockchain is. And this is the core of all cryptocurrency is blockchain. But the blockchain is if you can imagine on the World Wide Web, a safety deposit box like you would have at a bank. And that within that safety deposit box is, it can be your cryptocurrency, it could be your housing documents, it could be anything. But within that safety deposit box is whatever information you need secure. And then there is a key to open that. So if you can imagine an entire wall of safety deposit box, and each one has a key to it, and you have that key, and it's a code. And the only way that code can be open is through a verification process, which is all these computers around the world, these guys competing to verify that code. So when you say, hey, I want to unlock that box and use my coins, it's in that box, somebody has to verify that code that exists. That's done by not a single source. There's not one place that says, yeah, that's a legitimate box, that's a legitimate key. It is a bunch of people with these powerful computers that are competing to verify that code. And once they verify it, opens it up, you have access and you can move that to somebody else or whatever. But that is the blockchain, and that is ultimately kind of the background, the Bitcoin. Actually, the inventor of Bitcoin is not even known. I'm going to mess up the name. Sazimoto or something like that is and that's not the name. So anybody that wants to hashtag, I know but it's close to that, right? But they don't even know who made Bitcoin. Okay, there's some theories, there's some speculations, a couple of individuals, but it's a limited, finite amount of calculations that can be done, which gives it a finite number. And by having that finite number, there's only so many that can go around. And as they've mined the Bitcoins, what it costs and how hard it is to mine the future Bitcoins becomes much more difficult. We're about 3 or 4 years, I think, away from being completely mined out in Bitcoin. And again, that my time frame may be wrong. So I'm giving myself 3 to 5 years. I think that's a fair enough range. So what you now have is you have people convinced that Bitcoin has a value, and that's how any currency works, right? People have to believe in it. And you have a limited supply. There is a finite amount. And so now it's become something that, like I say, everybody says has a value. We believe in it, and there's only so much, and I want my piece of it. And so as long as that exists, Bitcoin's got it's got a future. But if any time, anywhere it comes down the path that somebody says, you know what, and I say anybody, it's got to be a group of people, right? You got to have a group of people believe in it, and eventually you'd have to have these people lose confidence in it. It says, you know what, it's just air, it's worth nothing, and that for it to go down. So that's the way Bitcoin works. And then you get into Ethereum, which is similar, but it's got its own nuances to it. And then Dogecoin originally, and it was a joke coin. They made that up as a joke, and they put the little dog. It was funny. Nobody intended that to be a real currency, and honestly, may or may not still be a currency.
You're talking about three
What's
different
that?
coins that have very distinctly different values, right? For those that don't follow Bitcoin, I mean, I'm looking at Coinbase.com right now, and Bitcoin's at $56,592.78 per coin. Right? Ridiculous. Ethereum, however, is $2,932.97 right now, and Dogecoin is 38 cents.
But look, so what's interesting, and as you make that point, and you're right, as an individual coin, but you have to think of all this stuff. So you need to go and look at their market capitalization, which is meaning all of those coins that exist in the world today. What is the value of the market cap? Now, Bitcoin is still the largest market cap in terms of all the coins. Ethereum is, I believe, second, and then I don't know where Doge falls in, but that's what I'm saying is Bitcoin, because it is limited, and you're not going to have any more than the total number of Bitcoins that can be accessed. It's like anything else. Think about rare cars. Let's say it's a production model of a Ferrari and there's only 100 ever made in that particular year, right? Well, if that becomes a desirable year and a desirable production model and there's only 100, even against other Ferraris in that same year, they're not going to be worth as much because maybe there's 1,000 of the other variety versus this one limited edition that's 100. So that's kind of that's partly what drives the Bitcoin. Bitcoin was first. It's the one that everybody knows. Even people, regular Joes on the street now, if they know something about a Bitcoin, right? Everybody, it's become a household name, and they know a lot less about Ethereum. But my personal opinion is Ethereum's got a lot longer legs, if you will, in terms of growth and opportunity, and more importantly, worldly applications, because it's much more uses the blockchain and has what's called smart contracts and things like real estate transactions. There's a lot of things that'll be done with Ethereum that Bitcoin's really not built for. Yeah, I mean that valuation that you're looking, they each have on a coin per coin basis a difference, but the reality of it is it's driven by two things: is supply and then demand. It's nothing more complicated than that. And the demand for Bitcoin right now is super high, and the supply is super tight.
So somebody was telling me that they just recently heard that a professional athlete was the first to be compensated in entirely Bitcoin for the year. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I'll have to look that up. But what I find fascinating as somebody who's just learning, right, trying to really wrap my head around it, and I'm coming to the conclusion quickly. It's not real hard. I don't think I will be asking for my paycheck in Bitcoin anytime soon. But what I find amazing, because you hear young people talk about, well, this is the way of the future, and no national currency. But I wonder if in our lifetime we'll see a day where we only talk about coins and not. So there's still a reference to U.S. dollars, right? In our case, because we live in the U.S. So you're never going to get away from the national currency. You're referencing you're valuing it by what you can sell it for in U.S. dollars. So to be truly free of the national currency, you'd only be referencing to the coin as the value of the coin, right? It'd have to stand on its own.
Yeah, so here's the deal in that. So the U.S. dollar is the world currency. It's become that, right? It hasn't always been that. And then there's a history as to what was the world's currency, but we are because everything's tied to that, right? I mean, when currency traders, people are trading currency, it's usually tied back to dollars. Oil, so oil is around the world. Oil is traded in U.S. dollars, and so it is the world currency. So what some people theorize as is one of these coins, or just the whole crypto world in general becoming more of the global currency than the U.S. dollar. But this is what presents a problem today, right? So the biggest risk to crypto right now is government stepping in and figuring out how to outlaw it or make it illegal, or whatever. There's already been chat around that, and the reason being is if the U.S. dollar, and God forbid, I hope I don't see it in my lifetime, but if the U.S. dollar was not to be the world currency, that would be detrimental to for the U.S. It would change everything here if we were not recognized as the global currency, the inflation and the value of the dollar. Like I said, I mean, to give you an example, I mean, in the United, so back during the Civil War, the Confederates had a Confederate money, and it had value as long as those states existed. But as soon as the war was over, it didn't matter how many Confederate dollars you had; they became worthless immediately after that because there was nobody to assign value. Nobody believed in that after that was over, and so, yeah, I mean. I don't know. It's going to take time. Currencies that were the global currency have over thousands of years. They continue to get replaced. Like I say, we were not. U.S. dollar wasn't the world currency, 200 years ago, right? So we took it over from somebody else. I'm assuming it was the British pound. I don't know that, but most likely British pound was the world currency. When the U.S. dollar took it over, but again, I don't know that to be fact. But yeah, there's a lot of people that think that if you look at it, you can think of as Bitcoin being kind of what the value of gold is. There's a lot of people that used to put their money in gold as a hedge against inflation are now putting it to Bitcoin, and that's why you see some of this growth. And gold hasn't performed as well recently as Bitcoin. Because there's a theory that not a theory, there's likelihood that people are moving dollars into that. If you think of Ethereum, that's more akin to our paper money. A transaction in Ethereum is typically almost immediate, and literally Ethereum could become a transaction where you could go to McDonald's or something like that and say, hey, I'm going to pay you in Ethereum, and the transaction happens that quick. Bitcoin's it's like I say, it's like gold, and it's what they call a store of value versus, being able to use it transactionally. Anyway, I do have to show this though. So I haven't set it up yet. This is my crypto wallet. It's called Ledger. So there's 2 or 3 different ways that you can do crypto, and you can have a hard wallet, you can have a soft wallet, you can just go through the services like Coinbase, and it's kind of like a bank account and have them be your middle person or whatever. But this is a hard wallet. And for me, would be my safety deposit box key, right? So I'll put all my Bitcoins and all my numbers and information on this dude, and it'll be what I'll have to unlock my safety deposit box and get my coins out and send some to you or Bryce or whoever I'm sending them to. So. Anyway, it's super, like I say, it's one of those subjects, man. It's wide, it's broad. Get into it, learn about it, because it's something you're going to need to know 10 years from now. It may not be the world currency, but it's definitely going to be something
I'm jumping on board.
10 years from now.
I don't know what coins I'll buy, but I am almost 100% sure that I will buy some coins by the end of the week. What's interesting is seeing this through the eyes of a young person that perhaps views it as foolproof, right? So I realized there's a significant amount of risk, and maybe even similar to this pandemic, right? None of us had really seen, or at least I hadn't seen, since AIDS, basically anything of that magnitude, right? So if you hadn't lived through it, young people today didn't, I'd say our kids' age, or even, our youngest, or your youngest, my oldest age, don't remember the dot-com bubble burst, right? So there are, like, when you talk about these types of things and talk about them being foolproof and, can't fail, and it's going to be, things happen, like pandemics happen, the market, crashes happen. So anything can happen. So again, we're not experts, obviously.
Anything can and almost always will happen.
I said, your disclaimer earlier with the whole medical, we're not medical experts. We're definitely not financial experts. So it's just something that's
financial expert. We should have a lead into the show. Mm-hmm. We're experts on absolutely nothing, and you choose to listen to this program at your own risk. And do with the information what you choose.
We might be talking about
hold
Bitcoin
us accountable,
and cryptocurrency this week and DraftKings next week. So, because I'm interested in both.
Yeah, I know. We DraftKings needs to be on the list. I mean, but may not have time for that today. But come on, it's the NFL draft week, right? And Trevor Lawrence is first out. What do you think? Is Trevor going to be the typical first-round QB pick that fails or succeeds? What's your guess?
I think he's going to succeed. I'm not it's kind of weird. I grew up playing football, and it's one of those things where once I realized I'd never play again, I was very heartbroken for a long time, where I couldn't even watch football without wanting to throw up for about 10 years. So I literally, I would feel ill. I could only liken it to a heartbreak. And I've never been into football again the same way. For somebody who it was your whole life growing up, it's never been the same for me. So
right.
I watch football, I follow, but it's just not. I mean, I think maybe what took it over for me is golf now, but as far as something I can be hyper focused on. But particularly around playoff time, I get super interested, and then come Super Bowl, same thing with basketball. I get interested during, because I just can't commit to that many games. Football's not so hard because the seasons are pretty short, but baseball, basketball, 100+ games, that's just a lot. That's a lot to follow. But no, I mean, from what I know of Trevor, I think he's going to be a good pick, and Urban Meyer's in Jacksonville, and the head coach, first-year head coach. So I'm looking forward to seeing good things from him.
Yeah, I hope he does well. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just. Again, you look at a Tom Brady, where he went in the draft. So many of the really successful QBs just didn't go in that first round. I mean, it's a tough. It must be to be so successful in college, and then have that translate to a professional career. Obviously, it's for that particular position, it's extremely tough, because odds of picking, a top round linebacker, or certainly an offensive lineman, or whatever, they almost prove to be great picks. QBs, I don't know what the statistic is, but I bet it's less than 40% of the picks on QBs in the first round, prove out to actually be long-term successful NFL quarterbacks. So I don't know. I hope he does well. He seems like a pretty good kid. I mean, he certainly was lights out at Clemson, and just.
Your Cowboys got a linebacker in the first round, so Micah Parsons out of Penn State. That's pretty promising.
I love linebackers. I love defense, and I'm glad to see that they took a first round on the defensive side of the ball, because offense is wonderful. It's a lot of fun to watch, but the best teams have outstanding defenses, and Dallas is. oh my gosh, in this last year, I don't know what happened to them. And the year before, their defense, with what they had, over exceeded their abilities. And then this year, it was like, it was an upgraded group of guys, and they looked like, holy cow, it was like a whole different bunch of people. I don't know. And I don't know. It was just, what an embarrassment the whole defense was this year,
Wow.
And hopefully, I guess I won't get, Jerry Jones probably won't be listening to my call here, so I don't have to worry about him being offended. But as a Cowboy fan, man, it is so painful. I mean, my son, who is 21 years old, all he's ever known is a losing Cowboy program. It's been so long since they've been a program that you want to watch. I mean, I think he wonders, why are you such a Cowboy fan? I mean, oh my gosh, they're terrible. And it's like, you don't understand. They used to be America's team, man. They were all it was. And so I like Jerry Jones. You know what? If I was an owner, I would be Jerry Jones.
From a marketing standpoint, they're a juggernaut, right? I mean, I think they're only second to the Yankees. So losing season or not, the merchandise keeps flying off the shelves. So, it's just, I'm kind of like you. I mean, they make it really hard to root for them.
So now your brother still, is he still in the Cowboy biz?
He goes out to, well, I don't know if they did it this year or not, but he's a licensed vendor. Pretty interesting to hear the process of being approved. It takes years. It took him several years to be an authorized, vendor of the associated apparel, etc. So, and they do kind of like an expo every year,
right?
Out at wherever Cowboys camp is now out in Frisco, or their headquarters, right? And he talks about how when they're out there, they would regularly see Jerry land in a helicopter, like on the field, right? So they'll do this expo of vendors or this open house or whatever they call it, and they'll bring them all in at the same time, and it'll be during the season or at least during practice, and the team will be practicing, and they'll go in the facility and all this stuff. So I've never been invited though. I'll have to ask about that.
I was gonna say, wait a second. That sounds like I need to hit you up for a hookup, or somehow we figure out how to hit your brother up for that. So, we hey, you know what? We could do this podcast
Cowboys
live
training camp
from the Cowboy event. Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking we take the show on the road pretty soon, buddy. I mean, that's something to put in the opportunity.
I don't
wheelhouse,
think John Madden's using his bus anymore. Is it John Madden had the big bus? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's using
John
his
Madden
bus.
was the bus guy.
Maybe we can jump on that, go cross country.
Maybe we could get it at a discount. maybe we could come up with a Bitcoin and maybe
I like that.
buy a bus with a Bitcoin or something. Maybe
I like
raise
that.
some money in it. Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, look, it's been another fun-filled, action-packed discussion with you, sir. It's
so many more things we can talk about, and we will be talking about.
Man, we live such interesting lives.
It's funny. So
it's wild. I didn't realize how interesting my
the
life
other
was
night,
until I started talking to you.
One more story before I let you go. I came in. I went to the driving range to hit balls late, 7 o'clock at night or something. Got home about 9:30, and I walked in and had my it was right as the first episode was edited, and we're listening to it, right? So I was listening to my AirPods, and I was eating my apple or whatever I was having for dinner, and I went into the bedroom, and Callie was watching TV, and I sat on the edge of the bed, and I said, just as you were, watch your show or whatever. I'm listening to the podcast, and I don't know what I said, but I took my AirPod out, and I told her, I said, man, I'm funny, She just started cracking up. She thought I was admiring my humor, and she thought that was funny. The fact that I was, I said, I'm really funny.
Tanya thinks I'm funny, but not in a necessarily good way. So it's
we'll work on it.
Indeed, man. Well, look, like I said, it's been great. We've got a beautiful day ahead of us here in lovely southern Arizona. I'm looking out at A Mountain as we speak. So it should be a nice afternoon. Get out on your bicycle.
Gonna do something.
Go do something
Yes, sir.
energetic. Do something. Eat well. Stay
I don't
off
think
the
you have to
tequila,
worry about me
No
there.
tequila tonight. Cancel that out.
You too.
Take care. Have a good week, man. We'll see you.
Bye.